Good day, everybody. Thank you for logging in on time. And thank you to members of the Malaysian Dutch Business Council and guests and friends of the MDBC community. Hi, my name is Marco, and on behalf of the MDBC team and out of the MDBC office during Malaysia's Recovery Movement Control Order, I welcome you this afternoon from wherever you're logging in. We know for sure that we're welcoming members from Malaysia and Singapore and Indonesia, Belgium, the Netherlands, and even my respected colleague from Thailand is also logging in. Welcome, all of you. Thank you so much for joining today. At the same time, while you're logging in online, with at least another 5 weeks to go in this RMCO, we would like to know how you currently feel. So please check out our first poll. How enthusiastic or desperate or composed are you for a next live networking event? Just one answer is possible. Just take a couple of minutes to submit this while I'm doing a bit of a recap here. During the past 4 months, besides compiling and providing daily MCO updates and lobbying with the Malaysian authorities on behalf of our members, our focus has been a lot on human resources. Most of our webinars were part of the 2020 Human Resource Forum or had another link to personal health and office facilities. After HR Forum sessions on well-being, a safe restart, and employment matters, today the focus will be on digitalization and balance. All right, before we start the webinar, let me take you through a few of our house rules and announcements. Your mics and video cam are switched off throughout the session to avoid any disruptions to the speakers. Questions can be asked via the Q&A box. Please not in the chat box, but only in the Q&A box. We intend to invite a few of you live in the session later on to ask your question at the right time during the Q&A. You will receive a cue to unmute and engage directly with the moderator and speakers. We are pleased to announce that today's speakers will make their presentations available. And while we miss our live interaction, altogether we will make the most out of this online engagement by getting you, our audience, involved through the polls and through the Q&A a little bit later, of course. All right, we are very fortunate that for today's session, we've been able to bring our annual partners of the MDBC Human Resource Forum together, namely TalentCorp and Randstad. Today joined by a new member, Thomas International. To put it all together for you today, I would first like to welcome the session moderator, country manager for Singapore and Malaysia for Randstad, Ms. Jaya Das, calling in from Singapore. Hi Jaya, how are you today?
Oh, afternoon. Warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for having me today.
Great. Jaya, a few weeks ago you already joined us and you guided many MDBC members to a safe restart when you spoke about the results of Randstad's global research on this topic. Next week, you will finally be able to go back to your own office in Singapore after working from home all these months, including today. Must be exciting for you and your team that, put all that research now to practice when you move back into your office. How do you feel about that?
We're very ready for us in Singapore because it started a little bit earlier than Malaysia. We've been working from home now 5 months and counting. So August will mark the 6th month in the new hybrid model.
Wow,
the conditions are still somewhat, community cases are there, slightly higher than Malaysia. So we still need to be careful, but the procedures definitely help for us to plan the whole thing together and to make the environment safe for people to come back.
Okay. All right, let's have a look at the results of our first poll just now, how eager our audience is to get back to live networking. All right, again, that's happened a few times already the last couple of weeks that the first score, the desperation, is about the same score as doing just fine looking at you from my screen. All right, so we stay balanced, guys. We stay safe. And the way it looks right now, indeed, we will take the middle ground and let's do it in September. We have a few live activities scheduled for September. All right. Then, of course, to give you, Jaya, and also our speakers today, Fafa and Hein, a bit more input on the current situation of the audience. Can we have our other two polls, Adeline? All right. Right now, are you logging in from where? That's question 1. And question 2, which option comes closest to your current work arrangement? What's the percentage of time spent in the office? 100%, about 50-50, or not at all yet? So please give a bit of your input to our speakers and moderators today so they can work with those details while they go along with their presentations. Okay, 3, 2, 1. And let's see if we can get the results online. Here we are. All right. Okay, also nearly 50-50, 50% office, 40% office, 50% home. One lucky person from Starbucks, I guess. I know at least one speaker is calling in from his hotel during the holiday. That's also, of course, a very pleasant situation. And then which option comes closest? Yeah, 50-50. For some, it's maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week, something like that. All right, Jaya, with that, take it away with our speakers and, of course, your own introduction as well. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thanks for the opportunity to MDBC to be able to moderate the session today. So as most of you would see, as the pandemic begins to ease, many companies are planning what you call a combination of a remote and on-site working, a hybrid virtual model, if you like, with some employees on premises and while others continue to work from home. In theory, the new model promises greater access to talent globally, allows you to increase productivity for individuals and maybe even have smaller cohesive teams, give the proposal for lower costs, as well as having more individual flexibility and improved employee experiences. But this new normal that we are transiting to, it comes with its own set of challenges. And it's good to know what best practices we can adopt from others and also where customization is necessary. Today, as you heard Marco say earlier on, we have 2 speakers with us. Before I introduce them, I wanted to share with you a little bit of data on what we gathered as well within our own company operations with our clients. So China being one of the first ones that was hit and also the quickest to recovery, we went to market with 3,000 clients over there to poll and see what was preferred in terms of what they would expect post-pandemic. And it was very clear that 61% voted for the hybrid model. So this is both, I suppose, an intention of people needing to feel safe as they manage a second or a third wave of infections, as well as the fact that this might be something that has been long postponed for a conversation on what flexible work arrangements we can give to everybody. And the global experiment, I think, has pushed it for now more than ever for companies to consider this for the longer term. So today, without further ado, we first have our first speaker, Wafa, joining us from TalentCorp. Wafa is the manager at the Malaysian Professional Talent Division within TalentCorp, and she'll be talking a little bit about flexible work arrangements and what is the new normal for the workplace. This will touch on how employers have adopted and introduced work-life practices, specifically for work-life arrangements within corporate Malaysia. Wafa will also share useful guidelines for the employers who are keen to bring on their organization to move forward into implementing work-life practices. So without further ado, over to you, Wafa.
Okay, thank you, Jaya. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'll be sharing some insights about working from home during the MCO. That's what we call in Malaysia. So, I think the term that is used globally is lockdown, right? And I'll also be sharing some steps about how to implement working from home. But before that, I think I would like to share a poll. Maybe you can just have a quick question about, in terms of the implementation of working from home or FWA. So, are your company implementing it, or is it going to be yes, no, or planning to? Yeah.
All right, this is a very straightforward question, everybody. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's go.
Oh, okay. That's good. So then, okay, thank you. So it looks like 78% really makes my presentation easy today. So most of you are eager to implement working from home or some other forms of flexible work arrangement. But before I went to begin my presentation, I wanted to share a video. This video was posted by World Economic Forum talking about flexible work arrangement.
We call it tight, loose, tight. And what I mean by that is you have to be tight on the expectation settings, on the goals, on the ambitions. It has to be very, very clear what you want your staff to do. Then the loose part is that you give freedom and empowerment in letting people figure out themselves what is the best way actually to meet that ambition or that targets. And then there is tight again on the follow-up and on the accountability. And you need to do all these three things if this is to work. Is this mix that I think is important for us, because one thing is the flexibility I'm talking about. At the same time, there is absolutely a value to be together with your colleagues in the office, because that's the way you build the culture. That's the small talk you have around the cooler, water cooler, or the coffee machine when good ideas comes up. So that is the balance now that we are starting to work on. This is about morale and productivity, and I think it is also about being early out in preparing yourself for what we think will be the modern way of work. We think that our employees will demand this. I think not only our employees, many employees will demand this, both in the private sector and in the public sector, and especially the younger generation. They will demand some of this.
I wanted to just set the context. I hope that the video, even if it was like just a 2-minute video, set the context for my presentation today, talking about working from home, the new normal, working from home, the new normal at the workplace, right? But I think the key word that the CEO of TalentCorp mentioned is tight, loose, tight. So I think that is what is it all about when talking about working from home, right? Okay, so today, my 15 minutes presentation will be focusing on working from home. I'll be sharing some of the best practices, some of the options. I think which, based on just now the poll, I think 71% have mentioned that it's a hard video, even if it was like a brief. Some steps of implementing work from home, basic steps, and also an initiative that is announced by the government of Malaysia. under Penjana, the tax-related related measure for FWA implementation, and then we'll open some Q&A, right? Okay, what is working from home? So, just now Jaya was quite common even before the COVID-19 crisis. Actually, many companies have been offering working from home. However, that time was just a strategy for them to retain and attract talent. So it became like a nice to have thing. But I think the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the whole idea of working from home. Now it became something good to have, or it's something that is normal. And what is the reason? The reason is because of one, to ensure that the social distancing, where it's talking about employees' well-being. Second, we talk about to ensure home. However, to ensure our employees are still very productive, they are able to deliver their work. And the last one, we also work from home. Some form is able to create some jobs, right? New jobs. So from nice to have, it becomes good to have. And then, so adoption of work from home was widespread, right? During the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. These are some of the examples of local as well as global good to have. On the two companies, IJM Land, which their business is on as well the two companies. The whole COVID-19 pandemic was companies who never thought about working from home, or never thought that, hey, I can provide working from home as an option for my employees. The whole pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has basically acted as a pilot for these companies. And these two companies now are in the mode of like, hey, maybe we want to look at this as a long-term option for some of my employees, right? So what was some of the options of working from home? What we observed from our engagement and also some studies with companies, we noticed the arrangement is hybrid. So it's either work from home for some companies, and there's still companies that currently still working from home for the whole employees. And then there are some companies who are doing it as a 50-50 hybrid, right? But I think the most important question that we need to ask ourselves is, so what about the future? So would working from home be the new normal? But working from home is just not all rosy, right? So there's also studies that saying that we need to battle, right? We need to manage between work-life balance and also some loneliness for those who's working. Especially that time in Malaysia, most of us was working from home for almost 3 months. So there's some issue in terms of loneliness, right? So a study done by State of Remote 2020 says that about 27% say that loneliness and also not able to separate work-life balance was some of the challenges, right? So what this means is for employers, they need to make sure that they have set these certain rules in terms of like, no, you do not need to work until 24 hours, right? Still the 8 hours comes in, and also make sure that you stay connected and engage the employees. There's one employer in Malaysia who offer how to say, because it was working from home for almost 3 months. So what they did was they converted their flexi benefits to allow employees to claim for Netflix even until the extent, because that time we were having MCO until 3 months, right? So and the reason why, because a sizable number of their employees are Gen Y, and they also noticed that these Gen Ys are also single and they are not staying in KL, so they are away from their parents. So these are some of the things that employers can do, right? But also, the budget doesn't go to, or responsibility doesn't just go to employers. So employees also need to play their part. So one of the things they need to do is, of course, they themselves need to be self-disciplined. So example, like you start 9, then you end by 6, So you still have that schedule of working schedule, you maintain that, right? And if you feel that you have challenges in terms of managing your performance, deliver some projects and things like that, please do check with the teammates and HODs, right? And of course, I think this is the most common, and I even advise my teams always to conversation throughout 8 hours via virtual Zoom, MT platform and things like that. It's also very taxing, so it's always very useful for employees to take breaks. This slide shows that besides working from home, because companies I said that it will form, I know my employees cannot be working from home because they need to be in the office. So, but how do I offer them some form of flexibility? So these are the, in 2017 we conducted a survey, and based on the survey you can see on the slide, the top 5 FWA. So what this means is companies actually can have different type of FWA to complement the work from home, or you can just offer different type of FWA so that it caters for different employees' needs, right? So I have shared some of the insights about working from home during the MCO and post MCO, which is current during the recovery. But I would like to share some of the steps, right, in terms of implementing working from home. The whole lockdown or MCO is a pilot, but then the next question to most of the companies are what's next? Right, we are in the recovery mode, but what happens if we are not able to find the vaccine in the next 12 or 18 months? So how do we move forward? So these are some of the basic steps in terms of implementing work from home. So the 3 key things that I think companies need to look at is people, process, and technology. So people, example question that companies need to ask is people is like the readiness of your people. Can they work from home? Can they deliver? Can they still be productive, right? It's also very important your media managers, your HODs, and your supervisor, are they able to manage work from home employees, right? That's another thing that you need to look into. In terms of processes refers to the business activities of each department. So I would like to always give example as a in HR department. So if you are working from home, your recruiter is working from home, but you still can recruit and do onboarding. So you might need to change certain process. And of course, the last one is technology, right? We talk about working from home, connectivity. Example, Zoom, MT, So technology is another thing that you need to look at. And technology, the key word is always related to cost. People will say that it's a high cost, right? And the other two is more challenging in terms of managing people and the process. So when you look into steps of implementing work from home, these are the 3 key things that you need to look at. We have the toolkit in terms of work from home policies and things like that. You can go to our website and have a look at it. There's more detail in terms of the description of people, process, and technology. So when talk about implementing work from home, I think the key word again is about adjustment, right? It's about adjusting. There's a lot of things you need to adjust your people mindset, even your organization culture, in terms of your processes, your business activity, and the last one is technology. So both to make it work, right? Both employers and employees need to play their role. So for employees, I would say that one, set your expectation and then keep on communicating, right? Keep on communicating what it needs to be done, what is your deliverables and things like that, and do regular check-ins. For employees, also they have their role to play. Again, there's one survey, I think just yesterday I received a survey stated that 60% of the millennials can't wait to go back to the office, right? So it means that work from home doesn't work for everyone. So as an employee, you need to understand that, okay, working from home is just like working in the office. The only difference is your workplace. So you need to ensure that you deliver, you set your rules and things like that, and make sure that you also do regular check-ins with your colleagues as well as your HOD. For TalentCorp, we have been advocating flexible work arrangement or work-life balance since 2015, and these are some of our activities. So again, we do as a government agency, we provide advisory support, free advisory support, example drafting of policy, and we'll be drafting a lot of work from home policy. So I think most of you, I'm not so sure, maybe some of you are very familiar with TalentCorp, but I just want to introduce who is TalentCorp. So TalentCorp is basically a government agency under the Ministry of Human Resource, and one of our agenda is to attract, nurture, and retain talent. And then how do we do that? It's always about partnership. So like today, we partner with MDBC. And then these are some of our key signature programs. So my program falls under the promoting talent diversity, because when we begin our journey in work-life practices or flexible work arrangement, our focus at that time was on women, because to retain women, to retain women in the workplace, there's some form of flexible work arrangement you have there. Okay, as a government agency, under the Penjana, they have announced tax incentive for implementation of flexible work arrangement. You can refer to the Penjana document. What is the status now? At the moment, we are still waiting for the final gazette from the Ministry of Human Resource. And once it's been gazetted, we'll share with everyone on our website. Right. So basically, that's my presentation. I'm looking forward to Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Wafa. Very useful to see the framework on how to navigate the work from home implementation more successfully, especially in the hybrid model. I personally found your stat very interesting that the 60% millennials want to go back into the office. I'm sure they're missing the water cooler talk and as well as the all the chats and things like that in the socialization part that we saw earlier on in the video as well.
Jaya, if I may, Fafa still had a poll at the end of her presentation. Can we run that up right now, Fafa? Still your questions? Maybe you want to explain?
Yep.
I don't see. Yeah, okay.
So the first question is what type of FWA? So besides working from home, which is the current buzzword, right? Maybe the other form of FWA, flexible work arrangement, and then what is the biggest benefit you see from working from home?
All right, audience, please submit your answers to these two questions. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Here we go. The results will be right up. All right, Fafa and Jaya, if you want to discuss these results for a moment, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Wafa, what do you think? Does it surprise you based on what you've been speaking to companies?
Oh, okay. So I think this, so just when I was sharing the 2017 survey, right, it's almost similar, the top 5, right? You can see flexi hour, leaving early from work, staggered hours, and working from home. It's just a different, in 2017, the working from home was almost about 30%, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it reached now 65%. So I think you can see, right, how COVID-19 pandemic has changed the whole working from home landscape, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's forced us to expedite this conversation a little bit. Really, you say not having to commute, right? 77% of people, I think, not having to waste your time in traffic and wasted all those hours of your life feeling stressed by the traffic as well, I think probably has been the biggest benefit. It's the same for me as well. Interesting results. Well, again, thank you for that. I found it very useful for myself. I think some of the things that stood out what you were talking about is the communication and the trust and more or less the readiness of companies. I don't think employers can postpone this conversation anymore, whether the COVID pandemic requires you to do it because of safety reasons, but it's very clear that people are benefiting from it. So I think moving forward, this is something that is all companies have to address on how they explain to their employees what arrangements they're going to come up with post-pandemic. Thank you for that. As Marco explained earlier, we'll share the slides later as well as the video. Now, without further ado, I'd like to move the session to our second speaker. Hein Jan is from Thomas International. Hein Jan is the Regional Director for Asia. And today's topic is about driving engagement and productivity in the new normal and how insights from the world of work psychology can help you drive that. It's about adapting your communication style in a remote working environment and the metrics that you can use in applying the knowledge for yourself and your teams and how their behavioral styles affect how you drive productivity and communicate effectively. So without further ado, over to you, Han Yan.
Thank you so much, Jaya. Let me first try to share my screen. Oh. You can see my screen now? You can see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody, or goedemiddag in good Dutch. My name is Heine Lapidaire. I'm the Regional Director for Asia at Thomas International. And at Thomas International, we believe in unlocking the potential of people at the workplace. And we use psychometrics to identify the potential and the personality of people. And with that knowledge, we can actually develop people and make the workplace a much better situation for lots of people. Thomas International is around for many, many years, servicing 32,000 clients around the world. Below you see also some logos from companies we serve here in Malaysia, but also in the Netherlands. Over 23 million assessments we do, and we offer those assessments in more than 50 languages. On the right side, you see the wheel with the assessments we offer, the psychometrics. And today we will actually focus on one of those, the PPA, which is the personal profile analysis, which looks into behavior and behavior preferences. And especially in this time of working remotely, it's so important that you know what the behaviors are, what the motivators are from people. Now, a few points are already shared in the first poll we saw, but also by Fafa. For many, remote working could be a permanent fixture. The majority of people will alternate between remote working and office base. A few quotes and a few numbers, which you also saw in the previous presentation. 77% of employees across 5 countries believe that remote working is the direction of the future. 74% of CFOs and finance leaders will move at least 5% of the previously on-site workforce to permanently remote positions. Those are numbers coming from very important sources. And if you look then, what does that mean for the employee engagement? Now, what we can see is actually that 22% were struggling with unplugging after work when they were working remote. Now, we need to keep that in mind when we are going to work remotely more often, that many people will have problems to unplug when they work from home. And why is not? Okay, 19%, and we also saw that in the other presentation. I believe the number was a little bit different than this one, but 90% are struggling with loneliness, working from home, don't see anybody, that make you lonely, and 90% is actually actively struggling with that. 65% of the remote workers are not engaged and are more likely to quit because of loneliness and low engagement. And that is really something we need to worry about. 65% of remote workers might actually leave companies because they can't stand the loneliness. And we need to do something with that, if we know that it will be a mixture of remote working and working from the office. Now, the engagement climbs, luckily, when employees spend some time working remotely and some time working in location with their co-workers. Now, that is that mixture. But how do you do that? And if you look into this, this coming from Dilbert, now I don't hope you all have bosses like Dilbert, but luckily we, most of us, know how to work and how to motivate our remote workers. But it's difficult. It's not easy. Managing people remotely can be a challenge. Is much different than than managing people in the office. And you need to find, as a manager, that hybrid way of working with that. Now, we can talk about this for hours, but I only have 15 minutes. So I talk a little bit about a few of those topics. Now, role clarity comes out, if you look to the clarity of a role for people, look in how to engage with those people. You need to have the teams in an easier size. It needs to be smaller to manage them. It's very difficult to manage your large teams remotely. New joiners. When you're working remote, you will get new people in your business. If they start working remotely, how do they get the engagement with that company? How do they get the values, and how do they get to know their co-workers? You need to look into refined and new work processes. And we all saw that through all these weeks of working remotely. Some processes just don't work. So we need to reinvent that. And team goals and performance metrics might be different in working remote. Looking collaboration. The team partially remote or partially in the office. Now you need to find a way of communication that your communication is fit for your remote workers, but also for your office workers, that nobody is left behind. Formalize your communication channels. So both in professional way and in social way. And I saw one of the questions, I believe, in the chat box. It's very important that you also have this conversation, what was shown in the Norwegian video, those conversations at the coffee machine or the water cooler, that you have social networks or social groups where you can actually talk with each other. We at Thomas International, we have a virtual pub every Friday evening, and you can share your ideas and you can just have that social connection. Foster value and the culture. Very important, a buddy or a mentor scheme. Make your meetings matter. We are all a little bit tired maybe from all the virtual meetings through Teams, through Zoom, Yammer, all the social media. So it's very important that you make your meetings matter and keep them short. It's very important to liaise with your team and how to connect with your team. Now, just to give you a little bit of a preview, on the 28th of July, we have a webinar, not through the MDBC, about unlock the power of your team, return, rebuild, and thrive, and you can sign up through Whitehall. Oh, where's my presentation? Okay.
Everything okay there in Sandakan, Hein? Yeah, okay, you got it back. Well done. All right, please continue.
Yeah, okay, good. There we go. Good. The information, they improved the communication. It's also about transparency of your information. Share and spread important company updates consistently across an entire organization to ensure group homogeneity. Ensure your information equality. Now, it is very important that you share the information to everybody. It's so easy for people around you in the office to share information there, and you forget to inform those people who are working remote, and they just don't know. You see them once a week on a call, and you didn't think about that. They didn't have that information. So it's very important to get that information across. And ask questions. Did they get the information? Are they still aligned? And do what's right, not what's easy. Now, talking about improving communication for a manager, the way you work in an office will be different to how you work remotely. Now, if you are working with a team that just moved to work remotely, the profiling, which we do as a psychometric vendor, will allow you to ascertain how your behaviors and communication styles could have changed. As a manager, profiling yourself will ensure that you understand your current communication style and reflect upon how it may have changed. Now, I can't go through a full swing of our assessments in this presentation, but I want to give you a little bit of a snippet. Now, one of our instruments is called the personal profile analysis. And we look in different communication styles with that system. We look into behaviors over here. And this is invented by Dr. William Marston, and he said behaviors are on a quadrant, where it is about how you perceive certain situations. Is that favorable or is that non-favorable, and how you adapt to that? Are you actively jumping in that favorable or non-favorable situation, or are you passive in that way? Now, if we know those four streams, then we have dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. We have hundreds of profiles after creating an assessment, but these are the four main characteristics. From that, we can also look in team audits, and we can look in a report which is just new, managing remote workers. Now, with those four profile factors, we can actually identify the communication style. So those are the clues. If you have somebody who's brief in conversation, often involved in many things at once, or somebody who's seeing the big picture, but more focused on the outcome than smaller tasks, then we know that that person probably has a high D in their profile, a D, the dominance. You have people who typically have a high energy, speak quickly, and like to tell stories. They like to talk about ideas and communicate verbally. They are people with a high influence. We have people like to focus on people and relationships, usually good listeners, and they generally more focused on considering the needs of others. And we have people who focus more on facts and detail more often than the bigger picture. Now, if you know those clues and you identify this situation, as a manager, you can also adapt your style. Now, if you know that D, then you can communicate in a regular and a concise way, either then in writing or on a call. Ask them what they need from you to help them deliver results, because the D is result-minded. The I asks for regular face-to-face calls and impromptu catch-ups. If you don't call them, if you don't connect with them, they actually are demotivated. So as a manager, you need to know how to keep them aligned and keep them together in the group. For the S, define a structured plan or face-to-face updates. The S like structure. They like a process. Focus your time on them, how they're structuring their work, and the support they need from you or others. And the C, provide detailed updates and ensure materials are provided in advance of face-to-face catch-up. They want to know into detail what they need to do and why. Now, the same is if you work remotely. The challenge is that the D may feel lost and disempowered if they are unable to deliver results. They're likely to experience frustration and communicate in an increasingly blunt manner. The I, however, productivity could drop if they do not have access to people to discuss ideas or problems with. They're likely to experience loneliness and boredom quickly without regular check-ins. The productivity could drop, feeling isolated from support networks and having to adapt to sudden change will be very unnerving for an S. And the C, the productivity could drop if they do not have clear guidelines about what they need to achieve. Now, how to overcome that, how to support those profiles is, for the D, adapt their targets and performance metrics to reflect the new reality. for the eye, provide opportunities for them to interact with as many people as possible online, perhaps through regular webinars, video conferences, or regular blog posts. Provide communication forms that are accessible to all and allow people to collaborate with their peer group, helping to remind them that they are still connected, even from a distance, for the steadiness people. And the people with a high C, involve them in the definition of new processes that reflect remote working in your team or department. So what you can see is that every person, and this is only the 4, we have hundreds of different profiles, but these are the 4 main characteristics. As a manager, you need to modify your behavior style even more working remotely than in an office to make them heard and also to motivate them at the best. Now, we at Thomas, we created just at the start of the pandemic a new report, the Remote Working PPA report, which summarizes a person's potential challenges when working remotely and how you can best support them as a manager. Provide insights into remote working, modifying communication, and recommendation to engage and motivate. Now, for all the attendees today, we offer this for free. After the meeting, you can connect with me. We will send you a link for our PPA assessment. It takes only 10 minutes. And then after that, you will get this remote working report where you can see actually how you can help others if you know your own behavior, how you can help others in working remotely. Now, we can also talk a lot about psychological effects, the access to training and upskilling, trust and confidence. It was also in Fafa's presentation, health and safety concerns. The time is limited today to go through in detail but we have a post online which I ask you to look for. You can click on the link even in the presentation, and otherwise after the presentation when everything is shared to you. Because knowing our own behaviors, personalities, and emotional intelligence is a great way of showing how we approach work, as well as keep ourselves engaged and motivated. Now, that's the takeaway of today. If we manage individuals effectively, and tailor our management strategies and modify to their needs, remote working has the potential to boost employee engagement as well as performance. Now, what is next for the MDBC attendees? Receive the Up Your Remote Working Game with Psychometrics guide. It's a guide about how you work with psychometrics, how to work with your employees, how to motivate them, and use those psychometrics. A very insightful guide, which every attendee today will receive. And as I just mentioned, you can complete a PPA and receive a managing remote workers report for yourself. And you can do that by contacting me at my email address or probably also through the MDBC. And if you want to know more about what I said, there's loads of material, loads of blogs and white papers on our website, or you can just book a meeting with our local team. For now, that's it. Thank you so much for listening today.
Hein Jan, thank you so much. I personally found it very useful, and I'm actually quite excited about the PPA assessment. I did my DISC profiling many years ago, so curious to see how I come up. And I think it's certainly very useful for the management team, because I know people have all sorts of communication issues in the last couple of months during the work from home. And with this hybrid model, it's going to continue. Now you have 2 cultures that you're managing, both the ones who are remote at home and the ones in the office with you and so on. I really like the part where you talk about what the action points are in terms of how to cope based on the profiling type. I think that's a very useful guide. I actually have tons of questions, but given the time, I won't ask you at this point or take it away from the audience. Please, you can post your questions to the audience on the Q&A section if you have them any, and we'll address them right now. On that note, one little thing that you mentioned, Hein Jan, was about how much material there is out there and all the things that sort of are floating around at the moment. And I think the structured approach of how to communicate certainly helps. And a recent article that I read from McKinsey is actually reinforcing some of the things you talked about on how much engagement becomes the issue. This is going to be an ongoing part because all of us as human beings are ritualistic. We're very used to doing things a certain way. And I think many of us are thinking that once we're back in the offices, this will come back. But to Wafa's point, the pandemic has pretty much undid all of that. And it's imposing a different new next normal, if you like. So that the article I personally found very useful, and we'll share that with you later as well to have a read, but it talks a bit about the challenges that Hein Yan talked about in greater detail.
Yeah.
So we have a Q&A, I think. That's a question has popped up. So our first question is from Asmin. With the hybrid workplace, I believe most of the issues that were raised will be overcome. In my opinion, the most difficult part is business development negotiations, where face-to-face meetings will be the most ideal environment.
Jaya, we can have Asmin in the session at this moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the question. As we all know, when we work remotely, having meetings like this is fine. But, you know, where you want to present your case to the client or making presentation of the business you are in is only always best if we meet them personally. And this has to be done regularly, you know. We have a problem now where we are negotiating with a client with regards to some claims, for example, and that has been very difficult. And nothing could be resolved through all these meetings that we had via Zoom, via Teams and whatnot. I mean, that's the way it is, you know, because we are human beings and we like to speak to each other directly. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Asmin, are you directing a question towards one of the...
Yeah, I don't know how we could overcome that. You know, that's something that I think doing remotely is just not proper or not ideal, at least. That's my question. Yeah, I mean, how do we overcome that? Having to do your normal work from remote is something else. But when you're dealing with clients and dealing with issues, it's only best to do it directly or face to face. So I don't know how to deal with it. You know, that's my question. Thank you.
Asmin, would you like to direct the question to anybody in particular, or you're just open
yeah,
to...
maybe. Both our speakers can answer it. I think they know best how to handle this. Thank you.
Well, shall I start then? Maybe Fafa can
Yes.
Can add to that. I agree. I agree. I'm also in sales, and sometimes I'm struggling, and I'm from the generation that that you actually want to have that personal connection with your client. You go there and you sit down and you have your conversation. But I do also see that things are changing. I think many years ago we couldn't predict and we couldn't think of that we would ever have meetings, presentations like this through webinars and through online sessions. So I think the world is changing, and I think I still feel very much like you in the personal touch with your clients. But yeah, if safety permits, then that might be okay. But I think we are going in a way, in a time that things are more will be addressed by these kind of conversations, by these kinds of technical solutions. Yeah, it's just a new time. Fafa, do you want to add something about it?
Yes, I'm on the same page with you on this. I think that's a whole phenomena called the new normal. So what it means by new normal is it changes the way we work and also our lifestyle, right? I think nowadays if you go to the mall, you have to take your temperature and things like that. But if you watch the video, right, if you're able to watch the video later, you can see that Microsoft in Japan has basically combined in terms of the effectiveness of working from home and also managing face-to-face interaction, right? So one of the things that they set in Microsoft Japan, they set the rules of for any virtual meetings, it's supposed to be 30 minutes. It's just only 30 minutes. So it's like you go straight to the point and things like that, right? So what this means also is like, so they change the way, example, in our business development, maybe all this while, the very initial, we start the meeting via face-to-face, maybe now is do a virtual meeting. So then maybe only you do the face-to-face at the second phase or the third phase, right? Or when you want to close the deal. That's actually the video that showcase that, right? Another interesting thing is in Malaysia we have this AGM, right? Annual General Meeting, right? So this whole COVID-19 pandemic also changed, right? So I think one of the questions posed by one of the company posed that was like, now we face a challenge of organizing an annual general meeting via Zoom or webinar. So how do we go about it? And they did it successfully actually. So it's one of the big telco company in Malaysia. They had their virtual AGM conducted virtually with all the shareholders. So it's proven it can be done, but it's just the change the way how we work actually, right? So yes, I think there's a lot of success story. You know, in the very beginning, there's a company who says that during the MCO, the first phase, they're also able to negotiate and strike some deals and things like that. I was talking to some of the recruitment people, how did they do onboarding? So this company was telling me in the peak of the MCO, in March, they're able to recruit 100 people, and then in April, about 200 people. And all these are done virtually.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Wafa. Thank you, Hanyan. We also have another question from a member of the audience, Sam Hood, I think it was from, that was answered privately, but might be good to start a discussion.
Yeah, Sharisa, can you please clock into the session and ask your question? Sharisa?
Yeah. It's, my question was that on employee engagement, right? Since we are right now working, out of office in a way. So does having energy barometer, or you can say as a pulse check, will give value towards the employee engagement? And because we have a virtual meeting, but that doesn't involve everyone, or that means not every employees will take part. Like for those that business support, right? So how we can go make sure that our employees stay engaged, like they are, you know, they feel like they are needed. So does this pulse check really works or really give some benefits to the employee? I can have either the two speakers can give me some good tips on it. Thank you.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yeah.
I believe Rafa already answered that as well, and my colleague gave also some answers. I think it's very important to have pulse checks. It's essential. Very good to check in with you, especially your remote workers, but don't forget also the office workers, of course. At Thomas, we have these one-to-ones. We have a structure for that, and we every couple of weeks we have a check-in with our co-workers, manager, and the colleague, and we just see where the engagement is at that time, and we follow that throughout the weeks, and that is just a check-in, a very small check-in every couple of weeks. And then what Sierra also answered in the Q&A box is that it's very important to have an engagement survey once every year or twice every year, so you can actually see where and on which topics your engagement goes in the company. We at Thomas International could actually help in that. And it's very good because then you can see what the temperature is in your organization, and you can modify, you can have systems to see, to incorporate, to increase the temperature. In COVID times, maybe that's not the best thing, but this is another temperature. So to increase your engagement in the company. So I would say have little pulse checks every couple of weeks, and then an engagement survey once or twice a year. And that can be departmental. It doesn't need to be for the whole company. You can also do that per department if you want.
Okay, you are saying that the frequency need to be like on a kind of like a weekly basis, sort of, or?
No, so our one-to-ones with our, and this is just a practical example from our company, with our staff, we actually do that, and it doesn't matter if they work remote or not. We do that once per 4 or 5 weeks. We do that a little bit structured, with a form where we go through some of the topics which is at that time what is going on at the moment, and then we also ask on a few of the engagement drivers how they would score their engagement at that time. And then if you follow that every 4 weeks, you can actually see if people are getting more engaged or less engaged throughout the year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hanyan. That's certainly helpful.
Shariza, maybe I would like to share a case study. It's a case study from a big 4 consulting firm. So during the MCO, they call it employee engagement, the MCO edition. So it's very interesting. So they know what is important in the sense that engage with the employees. So they have different types of programs, right? So the programs, of course, vary in terms of this one I mentioned. Even convert their flexi benefits into expanding it to staff, and they're able to claim for Netflix. So that's one. But besides that, what's interesting also, they have different virtual hangouts and different virtual hangouts for different groups of employees. So maybe if the one with the working parents, so they have a different virtual workouts, right? Just checking in them, how are you doing? Because again, it's not easy, where it's 24/7. This time around, it's 24/7 with your kids, because kids are not going to school and things like that. And we do get a lot of employees who got back to us and say that they are not able, we can't wait, to come back to the office, So that is one. So they have different virtual workouts, right? So they even like for the millennials, so they have that workout in terms of the fitness workout. So they have that Zoom session with the younger employees. So that's one more thing that you can do, is to look into a different type of group and have different activities for them, right? So that is one, and I think what is important also, they also have some employee assistance program, example of providing counseling also during that whole MCO. And now because it is in the recovery phase, what they're doing now also is like they're allowing certain employees to be working from home, in the sense that so that they're able to manage their kids and family and things like that. Yeah, I understand. The school, in Malaysia, right, is really open for everyone. But I can hear some of my colleagues are parents. Dalila, so my colleague here is a parent, right? But they were saying that even the school have different SOPs, right? So it's like you need to pick up your kids at different time and things like that, because the school hours have changed. So I think also one of the things to look at is look into your employees and then what are the needs. Even at the current stage where we are at the stage of recovery. Yeah.
Thanks, Wafa. There was one more question earlier on from our audience, which actually might be quite useful to answer on that note of segmentation. In your opinion, or what your research shows, are there some industries which are more relevant for work from home, or cope better with it?
Yeah, I think the COVID-19 has shown that actually all industries can be working from home. I think the question is more of what job roles can be working from home. Not all job roles can work from home. So example, if you have a factory, right? So your production people cannot be working from home. They need to be in the factory, right? So that cannot be working from home, right? They have different forms of FWA. That's why one of my slides shows that you have different forms of flexible work arrangement that you can provide, not just working from home. So you're not working from home, you can segment it, maybe again, working parents, for example, right? And then you can even go deeper in terms of setting the criteria. It's like, oh, you can work from home if you have kids below 12 years old, because that's where they need their parents. So the question is more of like what job role rather than what industry.
Understood. Thank you, Wafa. I'm very conscious of time, and I'm sure our audience have a lot more, but is there any one last question, perhaps? We have one from Rashmita.
Okay.
Hi, Rashmita. Would you like to?
Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I have a good question on this because I have been working from home since March when the MCO started here, and then now it's the time for performance evaluation for us. So it's already 6 months now, and then what would be the tips or principal ways you would suggest that we can do a performance evaluation for the employees that we have? Because as such, we know everybody is working remotely, they're working from homes, the time won't match. And sometimes some people work in the morning, some people can concentrate more in the evening, so they opt to work at that time when I'm not working. So being in the HR team, I'm like, have to manage these things, plus do a performance evaluation also. So I would like to have your views on this.
Anyan, perhaps we can direct this to you.
Yes.
Yeah, I can talk. I think Fafa will have an answer to that as well. But yeah, so that's an interesting point, and I think Fafa had it in her presentation, and I mentioned it as well. I think this is also about trust. So I think we are going in a change that we are not checking in with people or judging them or evaluating them on their input, but more on their output. And if that means that certain people will work in the morning, certain people will work in the evening. For me as a manager, I don't really care so much. They know what their KPIs are, or as we in Thomas, we have OKRs, objectives and key results. And we know what the objectives are. You know how to get to your key results. And once a week we check in with that, where you're going, and follow your progress. And I'm not gonna check in with everybody every day if they are online, if they make their calls. We will see that in the figures anyway. So I think it will change with remote working, how to evaluate it. I think it's not the standard way as we know it from the past. I think it's just regular updates with your staff, and more, my personal opinion, more looking at output than to the input.
Okay, thank you, Ian, for your answer. I really do that, and I don't check in or nitpick or pick up every day, everyone. Just before the payroll is to be done, I would check their performance and their attendance and all those things. But it is a great point. Thank you so much.
I'm not sure if Fafa has something to add to that.
Maybe one thing I'd like to add on, Rashmita, is besides setting the expectation in terms of deliverables, maybe another thing that you can set is the time of maybe, for example, I set the time of early in the morning, 10:30. I will have a team hurdle to set like who is doing what, and things like that. And then maybe in the afternoon another. But sometimes, I understand that, you do, it's like that much. Team say that, okay, I think, do you need me? If not, then end of this day, today, let's have a check-in tomorrow morning. So that's how you need to be very flexible, right? You know, it doesn't mean you set the stone like 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. And sometimes you find that in the 4 in the afternoon that nobody wants to say anything and there's nothing for you to do any, you know, any discussion or any brainstorming. So one thing is to be very flexible in understanding the workload of your employees, and then set the rules in terms of, like, you know, what time especially for you. So I know one CEO that 1 to 2 should be disturbed. So she only wants to be disturbed between 2 to 3. So when the employee, can you reply my email by this time? Because 2 o'clock I normally have to check in with my boss, and my window is between 2 to 3. So that's another thing. Also, always set the rules for them, right, for your employees. And of course, then you have the thing that, oh, okay, you can come to me whenever there is urgent matters, but it also teaches us, like, okay, what is priority and what is not. So yeah, so this is the thing. So you need to set the time also. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Wafa. Well, we've certainly had a very stimulating, exciting discussion. We're running out of time, so without further ado, I was going to say I personally learned a lot. I hope it was the same for all the panelists, but a lot of food for thought on what we need to do moving forward. And I'm sure nobody has all the answers. You have to make them up as you go along. But my main key takeaway, I think personally, was learning to have trust, which is, I think, the big ticket one that underlies everything. Marco, I won't ramble on too much. I'll hand back to you to finalize all the bits and pieces, I suppose, for the session.
Thank you, Jaya, for those very encouraging concluding remarks. And if a practitioner and an expert as you already learned a lot, I do hope that our audience learned a lot as well. And yeah, by ending this, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, please give another round of virtual applause to our speakers, Wafa and Hein-Jan, and our moderator, Jaya. Thank you. All right, it's not easy to do this online, but we'll try our best. All right, while the rain and the thunder has started here downtown KL, a few announcements in closing, please. MDBC will, of course, continue to deliver value to you during the RMCO period. You've seen the list of upcoming events at our introduction, but it's on the slide again here at this moment. Next week, there will be another members on mobility and connectivity. In August, we will have 2 webinars with HRM Malaysia, with VIP guests, the Director General of Ministry of Health. The announcement just went out, and I think already we have a dozen registrations for that, and also one with the Minister of Finance. MDBC will also organize another 2 webinars with HRM Malaysia, together with all the winners of last year's Europa Awards for Sustainability, and another one with the Netherlands Embassy on agriculture. So August will be a little bit of a different focus for us. But for future sessions of the HR Forum, we might organize a bit more. We would also like to hear from you on your preferred topics. So please, as poll, let us know what your preferred topics would be. Multiple answers are allowed, and you can also contact us directly to discuss any ideas or, of course, your participation. So can we please get your feedback on what you would like the most for the next sessions? And yeah, we love the engagement, the questions that are being asked by the audience, your interest to be interactive with us. So yeah, do help us out in the next topics as well, please. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right. What else? The ongoing activities, also a little bit, of course, HQ with movements of just 5 kilometers. If we can have the next slide, Adeline, on the movement at MDBC. Yeah. Right. Yeah, we know that the gym and the pools are open again, but we are maintaining this app during the RMCO. Walk, run, cycle, swim. It's not a competition, but to support you to continue moving. You can do this in your own time at a venue of your own choice and spread it over multiple days. You can scan the QR code here from the slide for participation. And after participating, you can also post your stories, which is a lot of fun. on our Facebook page, that your friends to like us, to like your picture as well. And yeah, what you can see here on the screen are possibly a few people that are even in the audience right now. Thank you so much for participating with the move with MDBC. All right, and finally, MDBC thanks our premium partners for their strong support. We still welcome, especially during this current times. Yeah, it's also necessary for MDBC. We can welcome more advertisers, more sponsors, more partners. So yeah, please contact us. And with that, we would like to finalize with MDBC's conclude poll. Get your feedback on MDBC activities. How would you rate this webinar? The content, as well as the technical setup and the flow, and MDBC's report during this MCO period. Of course, in this with the scale 5 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. All right, here they are the questions. So firstly, the content of today's webinar. Thanks to TalentCorp, Thomas International and Randstad. The technical setup and the flow of the whole program. And then, yeah, finally, please give your report cards for the MDBC during this MCO period, with 1 poor all the way up to 5 being excellent. All right, I think everybody will have had a chance to submit this. 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you for your input. Thank you for your attendance. And we look forward to you again next week. Don't forget to register for the Members for Members on mobility and connectivity. Another round of great speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you and bye-bye.